G'day, Justin Hogg here from Right Source, talking not-for-profits and governance. And one of the interesting topics in not-for-profits and governance is M&A in the not-for-profit space, so mergers and acquisitions. Now, there's a lot we could talk about here. The first one I just want to touch on is there's a lot of rhetoric around about we need to consolidate NFP space. Look, I don't actually agree with that. I don't think there needs to be that consolidation. However, when there is an opportunity to do a merger or an acquisition, it's very interesting, and that's what we're going to talk to today, is that when you do have that opportunity or you're looking at doing it, what do you need to think about? And I suppose the whole process, which is a bit mysterious because it's different to for-profit. It's not about necessarily getting out a checkbook and just paying an amount. It's a bit more magical, I suppose. So where do you start? Well, often in an M&A process is a board coming to a decision that they're looking to acquire or merge with another organization. Now, this can be for a whole heap of different reasons. It could be to get scale, which is talked about. It can sometimes be about an organization realizes it's no longer viable. Now, hopefully they're doing that with cash in the bank, but it can be at all points of time in that spectrum. And to continue their delivery towards their purpose, they need to combine with another organization. The motivation isn't particularly important. What's important is that you make a decision that you're going to explore it. So when a board has made a decision to say, okay, yes, we're going to look at doing some M&A, the first step in that process is to actually work out what the goal is. It's like, well, we just did, we want to get scale. Yeah, okay. But it's actually more detailed than that. So what we want to understand in detail is what is it you want to achieve and what does success look like? And part of this process of identifying the goal is also understanding, well, if it is to move from A to B, what type of organization are we looking for? Are we looking for someone who does the same stuff as us or something that does something similar to us? Is it someone in the same geographical area or different? Is it the same, what size? Is it a for-profit or a not-for-profit you're looking for? What's the culture you're looking for? So there's a lot of different thoughts that you really want to nut through and get clear, because without having that clarity on what the goal looks like or what the scope of potential people you might want to partner with, you will spend a lot of time looking but never finding anything because you're never clear on what you're looking for. So this process is, and all the steps are important, but this step is really important to start. It may also be something you get someone to facilitate in so that the board can discuss this with the facilitator, drawing out the points to try and get that clarity and to coalesce the thinking on what M&A looks like for that board in terms of what they're looking to achieve and what success looks like. So that's the first thing. Once you have, okay, now we know what we want to look like once we go through this process as an organization, and so therefore what type of organizations we want to look for, now you can start developing a strategy. Now, often people think, well, the strategy is you just start going out looking for them. Well, you can do that, and that's definitely part of it. But I would say that's the smaller part of it. And for this point of view, you want to start doing, the first most important part is you want to start putting a budget together for how much you want to spend on this process. Because it's going to take time, it's going to take resources, and potentially have a volunteer board. Yes, they could be putting some more of their time into it, but to really get through this process, you need consistency and you need availability and you need a specific skill set at times as well. So because of that, as an organization, you do need to create a budget for the process. And then part of that budget, the first thing to think about is actually, it's like selling a house. When you go to sell your house, you don't just go put up a sale sign and spend all your money on advertising. What you actually do is quite often you go through and you clean, you clean all the dead wood, you liquor paint, whatever, you spruce it up. You make it look good. You want to do the same thing for your organization when you go through an M&A. You want to have a look, is there stuff that we need to tidy up? Well, is it systems, is it people, is it structure, is it brand? Do we need to refresh the brand? Now that seems odd, but if you want to attract people to your organization, same as other organizations, you want that to look good. So part of the budget is a bit of a renovations budget to start with. The next thing you want to do, and it will depend on your organization, is member engagement. Now, that might be, if you're the board of the members, that might be less. But you still want to be, I suppose, engaging a little bit of stakeholders as well. So you want to be engaging those who are sort of connected to the organization, but especially the members, because ultimately, if it gets down to a transaction in terms of a merger, the members will be part of that and will need to be across what's going on. And similarly, you want to start working on a staff communications plan. Now, you won't necessarily want to talk to staff straight off the bat, but you want to have a plan for, as things progress, how you're going to do the communications and how you're going to have the resources to make sure those communications are done effectively, so that you don't start losing people just because you're thinking about doing M&A. So that's sort of the strategy part. So you've got your goal, you've got a strategy, you've got a plan. Now you can go out and, I suppose, we enter the courting stage. You're all ready to start looking and finding matches. Now, when you start, either you approach or someone approaches you, there is a due diligence stage. Now, this is where you would sign your non-disclosure agreements or your confidentiality agreements and actually start taking a look at their organization in a lot more detail. And likewise, they're probably going to want to do the same with you. So you're going to want to prepare, and this is, due diligence takes a bit of time and effort here, because they're going to want documents, they're going to want employee structures, agreements, and you're going to want the same type of stuff and look at it to understand where that organization is at and whether it meets the goals that you were looking for to get to your endpoint. They're going to want to do the same thing to make sure that you're the right organization. Now, in terms of the right organization, the other part, which is trickier, is taking a temperature on the respective cultures. So you can do all the due diligence on, agreements and numbers and that type of stuff, but actually, as important in that is understanding what is the culture of that organization compared to the culture of your organization, because if you bring those two together, will they fit? Because if they don't fit, the danger is, and you see this a lot in the for-profit space, but it's the same in the not-for-profit. If you bring two cultures together and they clash, one of them will die. And if one culture dies, quite often you'll destroy a lot of the value that you're getting in that organization. So you really want to find a cultural fit where you see the potential to mesh the two cultures and help both organizations flourish in the new joined organization. The last stage then is, well, actually the second last stage is, how do you come together? So say, yep, they fit, they're where we're at, good cultural fit. How do we come together? Because you can't buy a not-for-profit. It doesn't work that way. So the two ways you can do it is you could buy their assets. So one organization could buy an asset. That doesn't really work because then one's left with cash. What do they do with that? It doesn't sort of work. So again, the way that it works, in the not-for-profit space, is you either gift your organization, one gifts the organization to another and then folds. This is often where you get to a really tricky point in a not-for-profit, is if you're on that board where we're going to merge, and what we're going to do is we're going to gift our organization and all our assets away to this other company, you need to make sure that as a director, you're acting in the best interest of the company. So that's a really high bar in terms of giving everything away. This is why that's important, to go back to the goals at the start. Like if you're meeting those goals and you go, yep, that meets our goals, this will get us to it, that will help you get across that bar. Otherwise, quite often, you do all this work and you get to this point and go, actually, I don't feel comfortable doing that as a director. So, something to think about. The other way it can work, which is a little easier, is that effectively one entity becomes a member of the other. So one becomes a subsidiary company of the other. Now, that can work in terms of they both can still coexist. You can keep both boards going then. Sometimes in some situations when one's in trouble, it can allow them to come together, work together, and then effectively jettison the other one again. That can work. So there's some flexibility in that arrangement. It can sometimes stifle the integration of the two organizations, but they're options. Then the last part is that integration process. So as much as you've gone through all this work, we've come together, we've done the acquisition, we're now structurally one, you then need to become one. And that's the cultural part, and that's the people part, and ultimately the part that takes the most work. So as much as you think all that type of work in terms of finding some of the goals, the strategy, blah, blah, actually the work is at the end, when you have to bring people together who have two separate identities and bring those identities into one. So never underestimate the cultural part and the part of that integration of, both the people, but then you're talking the systems, the processes, getting that value of coming together. That takes time, and it takes a lot of proactivity and planning and management. So that's, I suppose, it. That's your steps through going through an M&A process in a not-for-profit. It's it's a magical process when it works, and it really has to be that meeting of minds and that meeting of coming together for a common purpose that brings organizations together in a not-for-profit. So hope you found that interesting, hope you found it useful. If you're after some more not-for-profit or governance videos, check out our YouTube site, we've got heaps there. Otherwise, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Thank you for your time. It's been Justin Hogg from RightSource.